What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Alrighty, so we've got Numbers chapter 23 in store for right now, and last chapter we were introduced to this prophet-type guy, Balaam, who, despite not being one of the Israelites or anything like that, he knows about Yahweh, the Lord, the same God of the Israelites. And he, essentially is a prophet in that he tells people what God tells him. So we were introduced to him. He was summoned by King Balak to come and curse the Israelites. And after some kind of back and forth, he ends up going. God kind of doesn't want him to, but begrudgingly says, okay, you can go, but you have to say what I tell you to say. So that sets us up for what's going on here in this chapter. So let's dive right in here. Numbers chapter 23. Then Balaam said to King Balak, "Build me 7 altars here, and prepare 7 young bulls and 7 rams for me to sacrifice." Balak followed his instructions, and the 2 of them sacrificed a young bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Stand here by your burnt offerings, and I will go to see if the Lord will respond to me. Then I will tell you whatever he reveals to me." So Balaam went alone to the top of a bare hill, and God met him there. Balaam said to him, "I have prepared 7 altars, and have sacrificed a young bull and a ram on each altar." Real quick, gonna pause there just to get some thoughts out. So, I'm not totally sure if there is a significance to the 7 different altars and the 7 bulls and rams. But in any case, he's making offerings that would be rather similar to those that we read about that were expected of the Israelites. So clearly Balaam knows, how to appeal to God, how to, seek his advice, wisdom, but then, after the offerings, he goes on his own, probably to make sure that, he's not influenced at all by King Balak being, right there. So then he starts talking to God here, and then in verse 5, the Lord gave Balaam a message for King Balak. Then he said, "Go back to Balak and give him my message." So Balaam returned and found the king standing beside his burnt offerings with all the officials of Moab. This was the message Balaam delivered. "Balak summoned me to come from Aram. The king of Moab brought me from the eastern hills. 'Come,' he said, 'curse Jacob for me. Come and announce Israel's doom.' But how can I curse those whom God has not cursed? How can I condemn those whom the Lord has not condemned? I see them from the cliff tops. I watch them from the hills. I see a people who live by themselves, set apart from other nations. Who can count Jacob's descendants, as numerous as dust? Who can count even a fourth of Israel's people? Let me die like the righteous. Let my life end like theirs." Then King Balak demanded of Balaam, "What have you done to me? I brought you to curse my enemies. Instead, you have blessed them." But Balaam replied, "I will speak only the message that the Lord puts in my mouth." Yeah, so Balak's plan kind of backfires, and Balaam, hearing from the Lord, word about God's own promised people, his own chosen nation, that no, these people are not cursed. They're numerous, they're set apart from other nations, and they are, God's chosen people. Maybe not always, but generally speaking, more than other nations, they are righteous in God's eyes. So, of course, Balaam can't go and curse them, because he only says what the Lord tells him to. And, God isn't suddenly going to go against his own chosen people just for the sake of some foreign king who asks for a curse upon them. So, yeah. Let's see what the response is to that, starting in verse 13. Then King Balak told him, "Come with me to another place. There you will see another part of the nation of Israel, but not all of them. Curse at least that many." So Balak took Balaam to the plateau of Zophim on Pisgah Peak. He built 7 altars there and offered a young bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to the king, "Stand here by your burnt offerings while I go over there to meet the Lord." And the Lord met Balaam and gave him a message. Then he said, "Go back to Balak and give him my message." So, Balak is kind of like, all right, okay, fine. You can't curse all the people, but let's go over here to this area where you see some of the people, but not all of them, and just curse some of the people. Like, maybe that'll at least give me some sort of advantage against them, because I don't stand a chance if they're not cursed in some way. So let's just try and knock out some of the people. So they do the same kind of preparations or whatever before Balaam talks to God again. And let's see what the second message is. So Balaam returned and found the king standing beside his burnt offerings with all the officials of Moab. "What did the Lord say?" Balak asked eagerly. I almost said earnestly there. This was the message Balaam delivered. "Rise up, Balak, and listen. Hear me, son of Zippor. God is not a man, so he does not lie. He is not human, so he does not change his mind. Has he ever spoken and failed to act? Has he ever promised and not carried it through? Listen, I received a command to bless. God has blessed, and I cannot reverse it. No misfortune is in his plan for Jacob. No trouble is in store for Israel. For the Lord their God is with them. He has been proclaimed their king. God brought them out of Egypt. For them he is as strong as a wild ox. No curse can touch Jacob. No magic has any power against Israel. For now it will be said of Jacob, what wonders God has done for Israel. These people rise up like a lioness, like a majestic lion rousing itself. They refuse to rest until they have feasted on prey, drinking the blood of the slaughtered." Then Balak said to Balaam, "Fine, but if you won't curse them, at least don't bless them." But Balaam replied to Balak, "Didn't I tell you that I can only do what the Lord tells me?" So, once again, that blessing instead of curse upon God's people, which shouldn't be surprising, really. Like, the reason God didn't want Balaam to go in the first place was because, basically God didn't want Balaam to end up putting a curse on the people. Like, you know, I get the sense that he didn't want Balaam to possibly be, you know, influenced by wealth or by some other sort of bribery from the king to, you know, end up cursing the Israelites instead of, you know, blessing them. But Balaam agreed in the last chapter to only say what God says. So here we are. Balaam continues to give blessings to God's people rather than cursing them. And not even just like a portion of them will he end up cursing. So, like, even though later on in the Bible we get to, you know, some other bad things, or even before this, in some moments, we had bad things happening to God's people. But, you know, that was for the sake of their own rebelliousness. In this particular moment and in this situation, God's people aren't being, you know, especially rebellious. They're just, I mean, they've conquered a couple of kingdoms and sort of taken over there. They have dedicated a significant number of people to just utter destruction. And, you know, by God's decree, kind of agreed not to, like, intermingle with them much, if at all. And so now it seems like things might be turning around a little bit for the Israelites. And thus, you know, all the more, God is not inclined to give them any kind of curse. God's also not going to be influenced by any outside force or being to, you know, do what he didn't already have planned. God is fine with, you know, punishing the Israelites for the things that they themselves do, but he's not going to bring extra punishment and consequences on top of that just because another nation is trying to seek favor from God or anything like that. Anyway, verse 27, Then King Balak said to Balaam, Come, I will take you to one more place. Perhaps it will please God to let you curse them from there. So Balak took Balaam to the top of Mount Peor, overlooking the wasteland. Balaam again told Balak, Build me 7 altars, and prepare 7 young bulls and 7 rams for me to sacrifice. So Balak did as Balaam ordered, and offered a young bull and a ram on each altar. And I presume that's going to be continued in the next chapter. Footnote there at wasteland, it says overlooking Jeshimon. I don't know if, like, the translation of Jeshimon was wasteland, or if, you know, it was just understood through history and or scholarly efforts that the place known as Jeshimon was a wasteland of sorts. But anyway, also, now we're at a grand total of 21 altars built, young bulls sacrificed, and rams sacrificed. So, we're cutting into some resources here a bit of King Balak's. But anyway, like I said, I assume that's going to continue on into the next chapter. But that's all we've got for this one. Okay, so TLDW, Balaam ends up blessing the Israelites instead of cursing them. Twice. But, yeah, that's not exactly to be surprised. God pretty much made it clear that that was going to happen all along. Anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description to get info on other social media pages and all that good stuff. And leave comments below there with any thoughts you have. So that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.